One of my favorite things in the world to do is watch Friends. I know it's been off for years and years. It's not even around, but I still find myself binge watching old episodes. And I was thinking about this today and thinking, it's the predictability of the friends in the circle, right? You have Chandler with his quirkiness, Monica with her type A of just everything has to be so neat and tidy and organized. It's Phoebe's ability to make you laugh at her silly songs. Ross always comes in with those smart comments, and Joey and him and his food, like it is just so hilarious. And of course, Rachel, she just brings everybody together, and it's just such this beautiful, cohesive team of people. And it's why I wanted to come on and share with you today that I have an opportunity for you to find your friends in the content creation space. So if you are thinking about creating your first or your next digital course, I don't want you to miss this opportunity because Amy Porterfield just opened the doors for registration for her Course Confident Bootcamp. And I'm actually offering a special bonus for anyone that registers for the Course Confident Bootcamp through my special link. So I want you to go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register. That's crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And what you're going to find when you get there is I have this special bonus private podcast series. It's called Money Mindset for Creators. So I want you to go register for Amy's bootcamp, download the podcast, and immediately start listening to it, because what this training is set up to do is to help you get your mind right about monetizing your content, making money so that you can fuel your content creation dreams. So go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register for Course Confident. And I cannot wait for you to find your friends and find the people that will be there for you. Do you see what I did there? Yeah, nice little friends segue connection. Go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And I cannot wait to see you inside. Okay, let's get into today's episode. What if I gave you a check for $1,000 to invest in your podcast? Or what if I told you that you would have an additional 48 hours to edit and create your video content for YouTube? Or better yet, what if I told you that you would show up tomorrow, open your laptop, turn on your computer, and all of the emails for your next launch were already complete? All those sound amazing, right? Like whether it's our time or our money or other resources that we have, the idea of having the ability to really just embrace the creator journey in the way that so often feels very unrealistic. Okay, let's just call it what it is. Because what happens is I will see a new influencer come on the scene, right? Someone that just sprung up out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden they went from 0 to 10,000 followers or 100,000 subscribers. Like I've seen this multiple times. And what people don't realize, because they'll come to me and they'll say, well, so-and-so, it's almost like, I feel like, the creator world is managing a bunch of children at times. Okay, like I hope that's not like a patronizing thing to say, but it's something that I see as someone that's been in this industry for a long time. I feel like there's this like tinge of jealousy that happens where people say, well, I've been doing this, or I've been trying to do it, but so-and-so just started and they already have 100,000 followers. Like, what am I doing wrong? And all of that to say is everyone has their own journey, and everyone makes investments in their business in a different way, whether it's your time or it's your money. Like there is a sliding scale of making investments as a creator, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I actually have some great resources that I'm going to mention later that there are podcast episodes and YouTube videos we've already covered in the past that are going to be super, super helpful in a few very specific ways that you can save time and save money. But what I really want to talk about is the sliding scale, because you can either go all in and invest thousands of dollars up front to get the perfect experience that you're looking for yourself or for your audience, or you can invest the time and energy and effort in doing it yourself. Those are really the two ends of the spectrum, we'll call them. You're either doing it all yourself and you're investing a lot of time, or you're paying a whole bunch of money up front and trying to get the product that you want as quickly as possible. So most of you will fall in the middle or slightly to one side or the other, whether depending on your resources. But we need to talk about some of the most important areas of your content journey to invest your time and your money as a creator so that you're making the most out of those resources, whether you have more money or you have more time, or you are somewhere in the middle where you're just like, hey, I'm just trying to make this work. And I want to make sure that I am really focusing on the areas that are going to move the needle and make a difference. So that is what we're going to talk about today. So let's get right to it. Welcome to the Profit Podcast, where we teach you how to start, launch, and market your content with confidence. I'm your host, Crystal Profit, and I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for hanging out with me today, because if you've been trying to figure out the world of content creation, this is the show that will help be your time-saving shortcut. So let's get right to it, shall we? Okay, so if you listen to my daily podcast, The Potty Report, shout out to those of y'all that tune into that. I'll have a link in the show notes for you to check it out. But this whole week, I am really diving into each one of the things that we're covering here today in a very specific way. So go check out those episodes, because it's going to have probably more stories and a little bit more focus on specific things that we're going to talk about. But I think it's really important that as a creator, you're constantly evaluating your resources and what you can do to allocate those properly. Because like I said earlier, you may have more money than time, you may have more time than money, or it may change year to year. And this is something that I can tell you, having been doing this for several years, it's absolutely changed year to year how much time that I have. So let's go back for a second. Let's jump in the time machine and go back to 2018. Back in the day, I was staying at home with our youngest son. He was not in kindergarten. He wasn't in public school. He had a Mother's Day Out program that we put him in, which meant he would go twice a week to the school, and it was from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And those were the days. It was on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those 2 days were the days that I had to get stuff done. On those 2 days, I made it happen. Now, the other days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I had a little bit of time to get a few things done, but I didn't have that focused, uninterrupted, it's just me in the house and no one else is here. That only happened 2 days a week when I first got started. But I also didn't have a ton of money to invest as a creator because I was just getting started. I didn't want to invest hundreds or thousands of dollars because I didn't even know if this thing was going to work. I didn't. I was like, I don't want to spend, a ton of money on courses and programs or apps that I just didn't even know if they were going to be around in 6 months. And I just had no idea what I was doing. Let's be honest. I had no clue. I got free software, was using Audacity, which is free. And I was using the free trials. Oh my gosh, I'm a sucker for a free trial. If you got an app out there, I will try that free trial before I start investing a monthly cost or even like a high premium for the thing. Like, I'm going to try it out. So that is what I did in the beginning of my journey. I was like, okay, I'm going to take these 2 days a week and I'm going to make the most out of them, because those were my limited resources, and everybody has limited resources. So I want you to first, before we really dive into what you can invest, whether it's your time or your money, look at your resources. Like, what do you realistically have to spend, whether it's your time or your money, on being a creator? Maybe you only have like 2 hours on a Saturday. Maybe you have 30 minutes Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Or maybe you only have like $200 to get this thing off the ground and like going and making it happen. Or maybe you've been doing this for a while and you know what? I got a few $100 this year. Like, it's the beginning of the year. I'm going to go ahead and make this investment because this is the thing that I've been wanting to do. Maybe you're leveling up or you're doing something, but that's what I want you to do is, like, first of all, have a reality check on what do you realistically have as your baseline resources, because I want you to think about those and kind of allocate them through the next things that we're going to talk about, because we're going to talk about specific skills that you can invest in. And I want you to consider these as we're talking about them. Okay. So think about your resources. What do you actually have whenever it comes to time and money? Write that down, put it in a Google Doc, put it in a notes thing on your phone, and think about those as we talk about these 4 skills that I want you to think about as a creator. Okay. Number 1, the first skill, editing. Okay. This is going to apply whether you're a podcaster, a YouTuber, someone that writes blog posts, someone that is editing social media content. Like, editing really covers the full spectrum of content, because you have to have good content. You can't just throw up a first draft of anything and expect it to be incredible without some pass of editing. Again, this could be your audio editing, your text, your video, but investing in editing as a creator has paid off so well for my journey. Now, I'm kind of the anomaly. I do realize that. I will throw that out there. I have at this point created, actually here, let me check it. I didn't write this down before we got started, but I want to look real fast because I don't know what the most current number is of how many actual podcast episodes I've created. But add that one. And we are officially at 1,149 podcast episodes. That's bonkers, right? So between the Potty Report and the Profit Podcast, I've created over 1,000 or I guess 1,100 at this point podcast episodes. Now, that's wild. You don't have to do that. You absolutely don't have to create that many podcast episodes. But I will say, in editing all of those, you bet your bottom dollar that I have gotten better at editing because I made an investment of time. Now, at the very beginning of my journey, what I did was the bare minimum, right? I did the absolute bare minimum. When I first got started, because I was like, okay, I basically just need to edit out I did it too much. I edit out all the ums and all the pauses, all the breath sounds. Like, I don't edit all that junk out today. Okay. It's not, you get better at talking. Okay. For those of you that are just starting with your podcast, like, you do get better. You feel more comfortable talking. You don't have as many of those like word flubs or things that you would consider editing out. You just get better. And we're going to talk about that too in a little bit. But editing at the very beginning looked like me at the most basic level, nothing fancy. There wasn't like transitions and music and like really fancy things. It was just me recording, stopping, editing, done. But as I went through and I got more comfortable with Audacity, I was like, okay, now I want to do this. How do I do it? And instead of saying, okay, I'm going to go hire an editor, I said, I'm going to go learn how to do this on YouTube. I really want to do this. I've been thinking about it. I'm 10 episodes in and I want to make this better. So I went down a rabbit hole. I started investing my time in learning how to edit. And it has paid off. And eventually, so I did that for 2 years, right? I edited my own content in Audacity for 2 years. And then I switched to Hindenburg, which is the software that I use today. I switched to that, and it was a one-time investment. It's not a monthly subscription that I have to pay. I'm not a huge fan of monthly subscriptions. If I don't have to do them, I want to give me the lump sum payment. I paid for it. It was a $99 investment to buy this software, which makes my life so much easier. So much easier. It auto levels my loud voice. All of it, it's so much, it's an easier software for me to use. And I just really enjoy it. So that is how, in a nutshell, remember I told you there's a sliding scale of your resources. So up front, I invested time. But then after 2 years, I said, you know what? I love this. I'm doing my podcast. I'm going to keep doing it. Where else can I invest? And I said, absolutely investing in a software that works better for me. So then I eventually invested my dollars. I invested my money. Now, there's going to be some of you listening that you're like, Crystal, I have no desire to ever edit anything. Outsource it then. Outsource it. But that's an investment of your money. Okay? It's not going to be free unless you have a family member. And I got to tell you, those relationships usually don't work out. Okay? I've heard, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how many times I have had someone tell me, I hired my nephew, or my cousin's going to do it, or my husband's going to do my editing, or this and that. And those, it's a unicorn situation when that actually works out long term, because maybe that person agreed to do it at the beginning and then they realize that they don't care about the actual topic that the podcast host is talking about. So they're like, oh, I don't want to listen to this over and over again. And maybe they didn't think about that from the beginning. But outsourcing your editing to a family member, it's a dicey situation. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Even if it's free, it may come at a price. It may come at a little bit of a strain on the relationship. But editing or outsourcing your editing can be something that's very lucrative for those of you that know you have no desire to do it. You don't want to have that be a hassle in your content creation journey. But I will say it's going to take you time, and I hope that you spend some time investing in finding a good editor, because there is a difference between someone that'll say, I'll do this for $20 an episode, or, whatever the price point is, and someone that is actually really good at it and is able to do it on a consistent, ongoing basis. It can be hard to find. So I encourage you, if you're going to invest your money in finding an editor, invest your time in finding a really good one. And referrals are always the way to go. It's always the way to go. There's probably some editors listening to this right now that's like, yeah. You don't want to just hire someone. You want to find a really good one. So always ask for referrals whenever you're outsourcing any of the items that you're doing in your content. So editing, that was number one, skills to invest in as a creator. Whether you are investing in someone else's skills to edit your stuff or your own, spend the time, spend the money to make it happen. Okay, number two, the skills to invest in, customer journey. Now, this is a beefy one, okay? This is not as cut and dry as editing is a simple skill. This is one that has a lot more subcategories underneath it, because what a customer journey is, what that means is every touch point that your audience has the opportunity to engage with your content, interact with you personally, or just have an experience with what you're creating. This could be listening to a podcast episode, watching a YouTube video, being a part of a funnel, reading one of your emails, watching your content on social media. And I actually, I put this out in this episode, I believe will come out today for the Potty Report, but I put out a challenge I want you to write out what your customer journey is. If you don't know it, you absolutely need to do this exercise. And maybe this is a podcast episode for the future that we need to do. But your customer journey, you need to know it. You need to write it down. And take out the word customer. If you're like, Crystal, I'm not selling anything. Your audience journey, you need to know what that is. Even if people aren't buying anything from you, you need to know, well, are they listening to my podcast and then going to my website? Are they listening to my podcast and going to social? Are they going to social first, seeing my little soundbite and then going and listening to the podcast? Are they getting on my email list? Are they emailing me to like my customer support site? What is their experience like if they are a customer of mine? Like whether it's on a platform like Kajabi or your WordPress website, like there's so many different touch points, and this is absolutely going to be a sliding scale on your budget and your time on what you can manage to do yourself, because maybe you are terrible at copywriting. Okay. I'm raising my hand here because this has been me for a really long time. I was like, okay, I'm going to get better at this. So I started investing. I invested my time first because it's what I had. Like I said, 2018, stay-at-home mom, trying to get her business going. I invested heavily in my time of writing. And I've talked about journaling before. It's something I do every day. And it's made me a better writer, but journaling on its own won't help you be a better copywriter in the digital space, right? Journaling is more of a therapeutic thing that I do. It's kind of like working out or doing something for like my mental health, right? Like it's something that I do in a bubble that I don't necessarily share with other people, but that habit of writing all the time has made me more comfortable with writing more extensive things, like writing a lot more, writing emails every week, writing sales pages, writing blog posts, right? Like I feel more comfortable writing because of that habit. But copywriting is very different. I've invested in courses. I've hired a copywriter before. I have worked with copywriters. Like I have put myself around people that are smarter than me because this is a skill that I wanted to get better at. So when you're looking at your customer journey and you're like, where do I invest? What do I do? Copywriting is one of those that if you're not going to do it yourself, then you need to find a good copywriter. And copywriting is your podcast descriptions for your episodes, right? It is your blog post. It is what you're putting on your YouTube descriptions or your YouTube channel or whatever you're doing on your website. Like all of these are areas of copywriting that you are going to do yourself or you're going to ask someone else to do. So list out all the different ways that copywriting affects what you're creating and say, okay, I'm going to spend time getting better at this one area. Even if it's like your about page on your website. Do you know how much time, okay, and let's just throw this out there. Do you know how much time, energy, and effort I spent redoing my about page on my website? Because copywriting doesn't come natural to me. It's something I have to work at. And it's something I've invested so much time and money getting better at over the years. So the customer journey, copywriting, funnels, this is another one. You can invest money in this one, okay? If you have the ability, invest money in having a really good funnel. Now, what softwares or what applications, that's totally up to you. There are so many different out there, whether you're investing in, like I love ConvertKit. This is my email service provider. And I invest in having that monthly email service that helps me have automations and tagging systems and landing pages. And it just helps me have better funnels. I also have Kajabi, and that helps me, have my products and have my service. Like everything is in one place. So I've invested my money in that, but also my time in setting everything up properly. So again, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I think I'm going to do an entire episode on customer journey, but I want you to sit down and say, where do my audience or my customers interact with me, engage with me? List out every single one of those touch points and say, how can I invest in these areas? Whether it's your time or your money, you need to be making an investment there. All right, let's move on to the next skill that you need to have. And that is number 3, your time getting better or practicing. Let's just call it that. That's like an easier way to say it. Practicing. And what I mean by this, this is something I've told this story before, but I had a meeting the other day where I had to do a presentation. And I did the presentation. It was like 10 or 15 minutes. And afterwards, I got a few accolades, like I got pinged. I was like, hey, like, great job. You did so well. And it was one of those things where outwardly, I just said, thank you, like to that person that gave me the compliment. I said, thank you. But internally, I was saying, you have no idea how many hours it's taken me to do that 10 or 15 minute presentation with little to no mistakes at all. You don't know the years it's taken me to speak in front of an audience and not be crazy shaky or super, super nervous or get off on tangents and forget the thing that I was talking about or supposed to be doing or having my calls to action. Like, you have no idea. But all I said outwardly was, thank you. And this is the time that I have spent investing in my own journey to get better, the time that I've spent practicing. And I already told y'all, like, I've done over 1,100 podcast episodes. So speaking today on this podcast, it feels effortless because I've invested the time. And you will see the return on the time that you spend wherever it is in your content. So maybe you're spending time feeling comfortable on camera, right? You're trying to feel comfortable on camera right now, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is never going to work. Like, I recorded one YouTube video, it was terrible, and I haven't gotten back to it. You have to keep showing up and doing it again. You have to invest that time, invest that energy, invest that effort back into what you're doing to get better, because you're not going to be great. You're not going to be great when you first write your very first email to your audience. You're like, Crystal, that was terrible. I never want to do that again. No one responded back to me. No one hardly even read it or opened it, or I don't even have a big enough email list for it to matter. You have to invest that. You have to practice. You have to keep showing up even when it's hard. Like, I think back to the very first time I ever did a webinar, and my mom was the only one that was there. I know, super embarrassing, right? The very first webinar I ever did in 2018, and my mom was the only one that showed up.
Being a woman in business comes with its own unique set of challenges, but also so many opportunities. We get ahead by leaning in to what makes us different from business as usual. I'm Samantha Hartley, host of Profitable Joyful Consulting, inviting you to a special 6-episode series exploring the experience of being a woman in business. You want to hear from women consultants who've hit $1 million, who sell 6-figure engagements, or who've broken their own revenue ceilings? Yeah, those are my clients, and they'll be sharing too. Join me for 6 must-listen episodes that tackle key challenges for women consultants.
Follow Profitable Joyful Consulting on your favorite podcast app.
And I look back at that and say, I did it anyway. Like, I did it anyway because I wanted to get better. So I could have been in my head that's like, oh, you suck. Like, the only person that is here, and she's probably not even paying attention. She's probably just has her phone on or her computer up somewhere, and she's in the kitchen doing something else. Like, I could have let those thoughts get to me, but the bigger goal was I want to get better. I have no idea what I'm doing. I want this to feel easy. I want this to feel like it's something that is effortless to me. And fast forward 5 years, like 6 years later, here we are. And I do feel comfortable. I never in my life thought I would have gotten a compliment doing a 10 or 15 minute presentation ever at that point. Because I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know how to not read everything that's on my slide, but instead incorporate, little anecdotes here and little stories. And like, I never would have imagined that would happen. But what happened is time and investment and consistency to achieving that goal of feeling more comfortable on camera, behind the microphone, just being in my own skin and feeling comfortable presenting. So you can make that happen the more you invest your time to get better. Again, this could be money. This could be hiring a coach, taking a program, or it could be just the time that you spend with yourself, like cheering yourself on and saying, you can do this. Like, you got this. Yeah, we're pretty terrible right now, but we're going to be better in a few years. We're going to be better in a few months. We're going to be better just in a few weeks if we keep showing up and doing it. And this brings me to the fourth thing that I have to share with you today, and that's getting out of your comfort zone. Getting out of your comfort zone. Like, I feel like this is the thing that I'm supposed to say, one, right? Because I'm your coach. I'm trying to help you get better here. But it's also the thing that I know I hate to hear when people say, get out of your comfort zone, because one, I know they're right. And two, I really don't want to do it. I think it's the resistance to it, right? I really don't want to do it. I'm like, I've created this little bubble of, love and sparkliness and comfort where I'm just like, I'm just so cozy here. Like, it's nice. It's just nice in my little cozy bubble of happiness. And I don't want to pop it. I don't want to pop my bubble. I don't want anybody to disturb the homeostasis that I have achieved in my comfort zone. But I can also tell you, like, there's this journey, right? You have the creator journey where you are just getting started. So if you've been creating content for a while, I want you to go back to the very beginning and think about the very first time you hit publish, whether it was on a podcast episode, a YouTube video, your very first social media post, the first email that you sent out. Like, think back to some point in time when you hit publish for the very first time. You were getting out of your comfort zone. It was hard. It was scary. Maybe it was exciting. Maybe it was thrilling. Maybe it was all of the emotions wrapped up into one, but you were getting out of your comfort zone, putting yourself out there. And then you're going along maybe for 2 or 3 months and you're like, okay, I got this. Like, it's still a little messy, but I got this. You hit a level of homeostasis again, where you're like, I feel this. Like, this is good. And then you're like, I'm not growing. You hit a point where you're like, I've kind of plateaued. I don't know how to get out of this. And you have 2 options. You can either keep going on that path of not growing, not getting better, and it's pretty just stale, like it's kind of flatlining in your growth, or you can get out of your comfort zone. Maybe that looked like getting on someone else's podcast, asking to be featured in, an article, or having someone interested in sharing what you're doing and they need your permission to do it. And you're like, oh, I don't know. Like, that's a big deal. Like, I'm going to get the spotlight shine on me. And I was just like, oh, I don't know. This happens to everyone at some point, where all of a sudden what you have put out there gets noticed, or someone finds interest in it, or you say, you know what, I'm going to start running paid ads, or I'm going to start marketing my content better. And then you're like, but I've never done this before and I'm really uncomfortable. And that's the area where you start growing. And I hate those like cat posters that are like, get out of your comfort zone. Like, don't stay in your, like, don't blah, blah, blah. Like, all those things. I'm imagining the cat poster in like the Lego movie. If you have kids and you've watched the Lego movie, you know what I'm talking about. But it's like, it's so frustrating because it's right. It's true. I hate it. I hate it too. Like, I'm admitting this to you. I hate it when someone tells me get out of your comfort zone, because I'm like, why? I love it here. It's cozy in my comfort zone. I don't want to leave it. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to challenge you that getting out of my comfort zone has been the thing that has made all the difference. I look back at before I rebranded my podcast, that was really getting out of my comfort zone, because I felt like I was abandoning everything that I had set out to create. And it was a little crisis of like identity in my brand. I was like, but I created this thing. I can't abandon it. I can't walk away from it. Like, I created this thing. Like, this is what it's supposed to be. But I was getting out of my comfort zone, and I said, no, I'm going to go all in on podcasting and helping people. And in making that switch, having the courage to get out of my comfort zone is what has landed me here today. If I wouldn't have made those decisions back in 2019, would I still be podcasting? Would I still be creating content at all? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that I probably would have burned out. I would have been tired of what I was doing because I wasn't fulfilled in the content that I was creating at the time. So getting out of my comfort zone, there we go, I feel like is what has saved me in so many ways on this journey. So those are the 4 skills, okay? Editing, customer journey, taking the time to practice and get better, and 4, constantly getting out of your comfort zone. These are my challenges to you. Like, figure out how you can get better at these and how you can invest in these areas. And then the last thing I want to talk about is making the decision whether to do 3 things: delegate, outsource, or learn it. That's what I want you to do. So if you were to write down all the skills that you have as a creator and what you're doing every single week to create your content, I want you to go next to every single one of those and say, can I delegate this to someone on my team? Can I outsource this to a contractor or a freelancer or even an app? And then the last one is, or can I learn it? Can I spend some time or some money investing in learning this thing that could really help me as a creator? So that's your homework. That's what you got to go do. Write down all the skills that you are doing currently today, or the ones that you want to have as a creator, and say, how can I invest in these areas? And then real fast, I want to mention, I'm going to put these in the show notes, but I want to mention there's 3 other podcast episodes that if you're like, okay, I'm motivated, I want to go like tackle these things right now. There are 3 podcast episodes that I've done previously that I want you to go listen to. Number 1 is how to save time and money creating content. Okay. It's going to be linked in the show notes. 2, 4 content time wasters that you can't afford. That's a really good one, especially if you're like trying to figure out, well, how can I only have limited amount of time? What can I do? And then the 3rd one is how to invest in your podcast. What if I gave you $1,000? You remember how that's how we started this whole podcast episode? I actually did a podcast episode, how to invest in your podcast. What if I gave you $1,000? And I think that all of these can be really helpful, especially if you're motivated right now. You're like, okay, I want to do this. I'm going to invest my time. I'm going to invest my money. Where do I make that happen? What are going to be like some of the ways that I can do that? So go check out all of those. They're going to be linked in the show notes. But that's all I have for you today. This episode ended up being so much longer than I thought it was going to be, but I feel really good about all the different things that we covered because all of it's important. You have limited resources, whether it's your time, your money, your energy, your effort. I get that. I understand that. I have the same challenges too. And I want to make sure that you're making smart decisions when it comes to investing your valuable resources. But that's all I have for you today. So as always, remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Hey, Profit Podcast listeners. Thanks for sticking around to a little bit after the episode to hear this special message because I want to hear from you. We are starting a new segment called Fan Mail Shoutouts, and I want to hear from you and I want to hear your questions. What do you want to know? What questions have you been dying to ask me? So here's how to make this happen. Go to the app where you're listening to this podcast right now. Go there. I'll wait a second. Okay. Now, once you're there, you're going to see a hyperlink at the top of the episode description that says, send Crystal a text message. And that's all I want you to do. Send me a text. It could be casual, informal. It could be totally anonymous. Or if you want, you can include your name and the name of your podcast or content wherever you are creating, and I will give you a special shout out in an upcoming episode. So again, go to the show notes for where you're listening to this episode right now, and it will say, send Crystal a text message. And I cannot wait to hear from you and give you a shout out in an upcoming segment of Fan Mail Shoutouts.